Hi, Rick Clark, fifth generation from Williamsport, Indiana. I am for the soil because if you want healthy humans, you have to have healthy soil. It all starts with the soil.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of For the Soil, a conversation. I'm your host, Jeff Ishii, joined by my co-host, Eric Benfelt with Virginia Cooperative Extension Community Viability, and Mary Sketch Bryant with the Virginia Soil Health Coalition. And Mary, as you introduce our next guest, we want to continue our conversation about farmland preservation and conservation, which are very important topics in our region. Go ahead and introduce our special guest, Mary.
Thanks, Jeff. Excited to have Justin Proctor back with us. Justin is the Grassland Bird Initiative Coordinator with Virginia Working Landscapes, a program of Smithsonian's National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute, has quite the background from marine biology to terrestrial biology, working with producers, growing up on a farm himself. So it's been great to hear. Recommend checking out the last episode if you missed it, because we're going to dive right back in. We were talking, Justin, at the end of the last episode about this idea of fragmentation, and specifically, how does that impact biodiversity on the landscape, and the important role of permanent protection and where you're seeing that play. Just want to invite you to, continue that conversation and what's happening in Virginia.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Mary. I appreciate it. That's an exciting topic. I think it's really good to focus on the positive. And in the last episode, we were talking about the fact so much land over the last 30 plus years has been protected by these incredible land trusts all over Virginia. And it's very inspiring to see how much land is now protected in perpetuity through these conservation easements. The Virginia Grassland Bird Initiative, we have 5 core partners. The Smithsonian is one of them, who I work for. And then we also have American Farmland Trust. We have Quail Forever. We have the Piedmont Environmental Council, and we have the Shenandoah Valley Conservancy. So we actually have a bunch of land trusts in this core partnership that are also working on this biodiversity conservation on farmland. And we've all teamed up because we have these different skill sets and these different programs, but the overarching idea, right, of working alongside farmers to find a future that works for farmers and for wildlife, right? This is something we're all working at. And of course, the biggest thing is we need farmland to stay as farmland, because we know there's an incredible amount of potential for farmland to be great for wildlife and plant biodiversity, for conservation. And so we want farmland to stay as farmland. So the big thing here is conservation easements through these land trusts have been very successful. We are, of course, as a team, promoting those all the time. I think another big thing that our group spends a lot of time thinking about and working on is trying to build community in these farm communities, right? The idea is that we know, even, if you're a new farmer in the area, you've recently moved to the area, or even if you've been here for a long time, kind of post-COVID, all these things, everybody's trying to find community, right? This is always the struggle of trying to find other folks that you meet your neighbors and figure out what's working on their farm, what could work on yours. How do you work together? There's a lot of challenges out there. How do you build this team around you that's supportive? So we spend a lot of time doing outreach in ways that we design it that we're bringing farmers together from the same community, sometimes for the first time at our events, where the theme of the event is often biodiversity conservation and how regenerative agriculture plays into that. And so farmers are meeting farmers oftentimes for the first time around these shared values that they didn't know that other folks in their community might have had, right? And I think that's super powerful, because the fate of so many of these incredible animals and plant communities that we have is really dependent on our farmlands right now. And so we need to be giving as much support to our farmers. We need to be making sure they feel supported and they see a community around them, because we want that farmland to stay as farmland. We want them to value it for everything that it is, right? Which is more than just food production, right? There's so much more going on there. There's water quality improvements, there's soil improvements, clean air. I mean, all these things they're contributing to with these collective farms that make up so much of our state, right? So really, I think building community is a huge part of what we're focused on doing.
We're talking with Justin Proctor. He is coordinator of the Virginia Grassland Bird Initiative. He is also coordinator of the Virginia Working Landscapes, which is a program of Smithsonian's National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute. And I wanted to direct our listeners to your website for the Grassland Bird Initiative, Justin. The web address is VA, as in Virginia, vagrasslandbirds.org. And let's talk nuts and bolts for just a minute. Let's talk with the farmers. Let's say I'm a farmer or a landowner and I have 150 acres of hay ground. How does your program incentivize me to be a participant?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the big answer there is we're going to come at it from a bunch of different angles and kind of see what sticks and what you're interested in, right? Our goal on the back end is to make sure we have a lot of different best management practices to offer, right? We have this list that we've been working on for a long time, and that's all backed by local research that we do in-house and with partners. We think a lot about the conservation goals we have and how these BMPs will get us there. And so then we have this list in our minds of all these different things we could do in these different, let's call them habitats. So you mentioned hay fields. That's a habitat. Now they might also have livestock paddocks, which is another habitat. They're both grasslands, but they're being managed very differently. They might also have a forest or a wetland
Let's
patch
be
that we're gonna
specific. I make
Sure.
150 acres of commercial hay, and that's all I do is I make hay and I sell it to in small square bales to horse owners and large square bales, round bales. I'll bale it any way you want it. But are you going to pay me per acre for implementing certain practices? How does it work?
Perfect. Yep. First thing I'm going to do with you is I'm going to come out to the farm and we're going to walk that hayfield. We're going to walk and talk. I want to see what you're doing. I want to hear about it. I want to hear about your farm as a farmer. What in those conversations start getting to what's important to you. As we're walking, as we're taking a look at the grasses that you are haying, as we're looking at the fields, the composition, the size, what they're surrounded by, I'm getting a better idea of what we're up against here in terms of conservation and production and starting to look at some crossover. Where can we make these work? I've got a list of best management practices in my head that I'm going to start to talk through with you. So I'm going to look at how often you're cutting hay. How many cuts do you want a year? Are you looking at 2 or are you looking at 3? I'm going to look at what type of hay you're what quality you're aiming for. Is this hay going to be going towards beef cattle? Is it going to be going towards racehorses? Is it going to be going for mushroom straw up in Pennsylvania? All those different things happening. I'm going to look to see if there's any water integrated into your hayfield. Are there wet seeps? Is there a stream along the edge? I'm going to try to get this bigger context of what you've got with your hayfields. And then I'm going to start talking about some really cool things you can do that can simultaneously increase landscape resiliency, increase wildlife conservation, and also allow you to hit your production goals at the same time. What are these win-win-wins we're looking for in a way that you can kind of bring all these cool features back to this landscape? Because now the thing is, you picked hayfields, which are one of the more challenging grasslands, surrogate grasslands to actually deal with, because traditionally hayfields, it's one big, it can feel very much like a monoculture, and the disturbance, our cutting of those hayfields, is happening all at one time across a big piece of land, right? So it's a big uniform cut versus, in your mind, picture a bunch of cattle grazing across the field, leaving some clumps of grass, not grazing in certain spots. You have heterogeneity to your habitat, whereas a hayfield is one big uniform cut. And so I'll give you some examples. Yes, first thing we're going to offer is that the biggest thing I'm going to try to do out there is see if this farmer is interested in trying to protect some of the birds that I know are trying to nest in that hayfield. Our nesting season is our most vulnerable season for some of these incredible but at-risk birds that we're trying to protect. I'm going to talk to him about these birds, see if this farmer has had any interaction with these birds before, try to point out where they would be, where they would nest, and then say, well, we have this really cool program where we have in-house money. We have our own incentives program where we have in-house money to pay you X amount per acre to try to delay your first cutting of hay until a certain date that
How
basically
much?
allows. Yeah, so we teamed up with some agronomists with Virginia Tech, and we pay $35 an acre for a farmer to move their
Delay it
first
how
cutting
long,
of hay
though?
till July 1st is our golden date. So all this research that we've been doing, we put together everything and we've said, what's going to be a fair compromise here? What date is going to allow us to protect the bulk of our birds, but at the same time not delay it so long that the farmer is running into weed issues or woody growth issues out in these fields. And that date for us right now is July 1st. And so I'd be offering to the farmer, hey, When do you normally cut? Maybe it's June 10th. Would you be interested in delaying a couple weeks, just trying it out? This is something to try to grease the wheels of change. I'm going to offset your financial risk of even doing this. I'm going to pay you just to do it. You're still going to be able to get the hay July 1st, everything you normally do. I'm going to give you some extra money on that in case you're worried about a financial loss. Try it out. See what happens. We're also going to send a team out to do some bird surveys at the same time and get you involved so you can see some of the birds nesting on this habitat, which is really exciting. And then look at the quality of your hay July 1st, see how it went for you. It's less wet, it's easier to cut. There's all these different things that could be some good benefits. And the goal is for the farmer to try it and to see if something like that might work for them, right? And then the exciting thing is we've also spent years working with NRCS, so the USDA, behind the scenes to actually tweak some of their existing cost share programs to marry into our incentive programs. So they have a 511 practice through EQIP or CSP right now that offers the exact same thing. So let's just say somebody starts with us and they say, that was good. It worked for me. I'm willing to do this July 1st date, but I feel like I am taking a financial loss. Is there anybody who could keep kind of helping me with that as I'm trying to do the right thing for wildlife? And the answer is yes. We now have NRCS set up there to go from there. So we're trying to put all the pieces together. Delayed hay is one best management practice I might throw out there, but I've got about 10 others. And so I might also talk to them about the cutting height of their blades. Can we raise the blade a little bit when they're cutting their hay? Right? We know that. And so if we're talking soils, that's probably one of the biggest things for the soils right there. You picture these hay
A
farms.
lot of those questions can be answered at your website. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah. We try to break it all down, all the different BMPs we have, the incentives program, things like that, and why this comes back to benefit the farmer. We also have what's really exciting, a new resource out, our Meet Your Virginia Grassland Birds, which is a 36-page booklet that we put out last year, which is really exciting. All of our in-house research, all of our best management practices, how they benefit the farmer and the farm itself, all the ecosystem services it brings back. So we're excited to promote that as well.
Very well said. I know Eric is chomping at the bit to ask a question. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, just on the website, you talk about local community and local knowledge. And just, I know many of my neighbors are real birders, and I'll interact with my neighbor and you'll see an osprey or snow geese or a green heron. How can farmers be involved with the research? I know some personal farmers will have bird counts as they walk their farms. How can they be part in adding to the knowledge base as well as the research?
Yeah, so that's an awesome question. How to get involved. And the goal of all of our research and conservation is to have these farmers right with us through the whole thing, right? The goal is that they're a part of this. They're seeing what we're learning. They're helping us learn these things. It's a partnership. Virginia Working Landscapes offers free biodiversity surveys for farmers. So this is really cool where we send out a team, a lot of it's volunteers, and then one of our staff that come out and we do free bird surveys. We do plant community surveys. We also do soil surveys, which is really fun. And we do those surveys, inviting the farmer to come out any of the mornings we're out there to collect that data and see what we're doing and see what we're learning. It's all passive surveys, which is great. And then we prepare this big report for them at the end of the year with all the information that we've found. So they have some really cool baseline data. And that, it's like, hey, did you know you had 37 species of birds using those back two fields? Did you know you had 47 types of plants in your hayfield? Like the things, you do these surveys, you get up close and personal in these environments that, normally you just maybe driving a hay tractor over, and all of a sudden you start realizing how much life is out there and how much more life could be by tweaking a few small pieces of your management. So we have these free biodiversity surveys, and then of course another big thing is that there's all these cool community science databases now that you can contribute to as a landowner. So eBird would be a great one through Cornell University, where if you're interested in birds, it's a great tool for submitting all of your observations, for tracking them. Cornell also has the Merlin app, which allows you with your smartphone to put it up and listen to the birds that are out there that you might hear every day but not be fully processing, and it identifies the birds from sound, which is incredible. The fact that technology exists in our lifetime is really cool, and I encourage people to use it because all of a sudden you start realizing you have birds on the landscape you never knew were there, and then you got to go find them. So those are two really engaging tools for us, getting farmers involved in the day-to-day research and conservation on their landscapes.
And Justin, I know you had mentioned you're from upstate New York originally, and I know Amish farmer, Mennonite farmers are moving up into the Finger Lakes region. For those groups of people that are leery of government, particularly taking any government assistance, how do you work with those communities?
Yeah, that's a great question, and the answer is we do, and we're finding ways to do. I think a lot of times it really helps to find a farmer to make an initial contact within that community, somebody who you have a friend in common with, and you get onto that farm and you start inviting more of their neighbors over, and you start talking and building that trust. Um, I think, going back, these farmers they're very excited about this knowledge. If we can bring them knowledge that's going to help with their production goals, to bring wildlife back onto their properties, healthier watersheds, healthier soils, nobody's going to say no to that. If we do it in a way that's going to help increase profit, right? Increase landscape resiliency, ideally reduce maintenance. That's another big thing too. We want to save these farmers time when they're looking at how they rotate their cattle, how they hay their fields. Can we save them time? So the answer is yes. Those doors are open, and we are working with those communities, and it has always been very positive. And that's why I'm hoping you hear the hope in my voice, is the fact that the momentum is good and people are really receptive.
Well, Justin, it has been a real pleasure. I have learned a lot the last few minutes. You are a great resource of information, and I wanted to remind our listeners of the web addresses where you can learn more: vaworkinglandscapes.org, and also for the Virginia Grassland Bird Initiative, vagrasslandbirds.org, and there you will find a wealth of information. Justin, thank you for everything you do and for taking some time to join us today.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Justin Proctor, and Mary and Eric, will catch you in the next one.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mary and Jeff and Justin.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Thanks, Jeff.
And one quick reminder before we close out this week's podcast: if you homeschool your kids, or if you are a school teacher, if you're around kids, are you aware that there are some resources concerning soil health just for children on our website, forthesoil.org? Just go to the main page there and scroll down a little bit. You'll find a free coloring book. Just download the file, print it out, and bam, you got a soil health coloring book for your kids, a one-page activity sheet, you got bookmarks, all sorts of things. So once again, if you homeschool your kids, if you're a school teacher, there are resources concerning soil health at our website, forthesoil.org. For the Soil, a Conversation is made possible with funding support from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and the Agua Fund. Other partners include the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service, Virginia Cooperative Extension, Virginia State University, Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation, and partners of the Virginia Soil Health Coalition. Views expressed on this podcast are those of each individual guest. To download a copy of this or any other episode, visit the website forthesoil.org, and if you should have a specific question about soil health, just call your local extension office, your local USDA service center, or a Soil and Water Conservation District office. Music used during today's program was provided courtesy of the Flip Charts, all rights reserved. For the Soil, a Conversation is produced by On the Farm Radio in collaboration with Virginia Tech. I'm your host, Jeff Ishii.